was in vain. The British were fully aware of Operation Salam, thanks to the interception of German Enigma codes, and all the spies were arrested. Though Rommel's long-range desert group failed miserably, he proceeded with his massive offensive in May 1942. The Axis powers were not finished yet. June 1942. Fierce battles rage in the western desert as Rommel attempts to break the British defensive lines. As the fighting continues into July 1942, the LRDG and SAS begin Operation Dogrose, a series of raids against Axis supply lines. For these raids, they use a remarkable new vehicle which has just arrived in North Africa, the Willys Jeep. This revolutionized SAS operations and also became an important vehicle for the LRDG. The rugged four-wheel drive Jeep proved to be an ideal platform for the SAS raiding forces and allowed them to operate independently of the LRDG. Each vehicle was fitted with extra fuel tanks and carried numerous jerry cans to give an operating range of some 900 miles. The vehicle was also equipped with a condenser to recycle and conserve water in the arid desert regions. To the SAS, the Jeeps are home. Most were heavily armed with a variety of machine guns, including the .50 caliber air-cooled Browning and the Vickers K303-inch. The Vickers were acquired from obsolete RAF aircraft, such as the Gloucester Gladiator, but they proved ideal for the SAS with their high rate of fire of 1,000 rounds per minute. Jeeps and weapons required constant cleaning and maintenance to prevent failures in the harsh conditions. Navigational skills were vital for survival in the featureless desert. Both the SAS and the LRDG became masters of the art. The Sun Compass, which Major Ralph Bagnold had developed before the war, was a fundamental navigation aid. The Italian and German weapons and supplies that the SAS managed to capture also came in handy, including the stronger, more durable German jerry cans. Throughout the campaign, the LRDG were provided with greater quantities of superior rations than the average soldier. The SAS were quickly put on the same rations. The men became expert at spicing up their rations, and the midday meal was often the high point of the day. With few luxuries in the desert, the service issue flagons of rum were most welcome during the cold desert nights. Every vehicle carried camouflage nets for disguise, and an escape pack or bailout bag for each crewman. These packs were basic survival kits in case the vehicle was hit or destroyed during a raid. The Jeeps were put to their first real test during a raid on Bagush Airfield during the night of July 7, 1942. Demolition charges did not always detonate properly, so Sterling decided to use his new Jeeps to strike at high speed and destroy the Axis aircraft with machine gun fire. The plan worked to perfection. The mobility of the Jeeps allowed the SAS to mount the sort of deep penetration missions and surprise raids that Sterling envisioned.
The whole purpose of the SAS was to be able to live for long periods behind the lines. Whereas the smallest unit in the commando was 12 men. In the case of the SAS, each troop should be divided down to 2 subunits of 4 men, and that each should be capable of operating by itself. We were a totally strategic type unit. One man would know a particular amount of navigation. Another would be fully trained in medical side. Another would have his specialist learning in explosives and every form of sabotage and so on. Each of them were equally capable of doing any task. The magic of having 4 men was that it wasn't commanded by any particular one of them.
By now, the LRDG and the SAS had acquired remarkable desert survival skills. Men such as Private David Sillitoe were living proof. When he was separated from his patrol during a raid, he simply walked back to base, across 180 miles of desert, with no food and little to drink, wearing boots that were falling apart. Another trooper, Robert Moore of the LRDG, marched for 10 days, over 210 miles of desert with a wounded foot, until he was finally discovered by a Free French patrol. Everyone knew that failure had only one consequence. The ranks of the Desert Raiders were increased during 1942 by a number of new units, including the Free French forces in North Africa. They had cooperated with the LRDG since the earliest days of its operations. Now they assumed a more active role by joining the SAS. Another group of fighters also joined the SAS, the Greek Sacred Squadron. It had a long history. The first unit with this name was raised in 379 BC to fight the Spartans. They rose up again in 1821 to fight the Turks, and now it was time to battle the Germans. Other foreign nationals joined the Desert Raiders. One was a Russian count born in Belgium by the name of Vladimir Peniakov, whom everyone called Popsky. His raiding unit became known as Popsky's Private Army, and it accompanied the LRDG on several patrols and operations. In September 1942, the Desert Raiders mounted a series of attacks to support the coming British offensive that became a turning point in the North African campaign. The battle was to be ever known after an obscure railway station called El Alamein. After the arrival of General Bernard Montgomery as commander of the 8th Army in August 1942, plans were laid for a major offensive in North Africa.